Joining us now is Democratic Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia. He is a member of the House Oversight and Homeland Security Committees, and the congressman was in Minneapolis for today's shadow hearing, and now he's back in Washington, D.C., a journey today.
Congressman, welcome to the table. So let's talk about what you heard today and the experience that you and your colleagues tried to put before the American people. I'm going to do a little devil's advocate here. So what? I mean, because I have a lot of folks on my side of the aisle looking at this going, well, this is more showplace. You know, this is a fixed hearing. They got people to come in and say the thing. And I think a lot of times that attitude has to get broken. We've got to cut through that attitude, because at the heart of it, I don't believe they believe that, and I don't think they mean that. I think that they're just being fed a bunch of crap from Fox and elsewhere. To think and look at their fellow Americans who are before your committee, before this hearing. And, you know, shadow or not, you have members of Congress coming into a community to have a conversation. That's important. And so I want to start from that perspective to sort of push back on this narrative that, well, this is all just Democrats doing what Democrats do when they're up against the wall, because the Republicans are the ones who are up against the wall, not the Democrats, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, first, I think for one of my Republican colleagues who's maybe thinking or saying what you just said, I wish they would have come and sat next to me in that hearing.
Well, there's that.
To hear for themselves what these everyday Americans in Minnesota are dealing with as a result of this mass deportation machine that Trump has placed on them. But I think the point is in some ways fair, because those of us who are there, we now have a responsibility to take what we learned and bring it back here to Washington and try to put it into action and try to push for some real accountability for ICE and CBP and the other agencies involved here to try to end this violence, this chaos, the reckless approach that we've seen from them. We have a responsibility to fight for that.
Congressman, one of the most alarming pieces of sound today, Simone flagged it earlier, came from the mayor of St. Paul. I want you to take a listen to what she shared.
We've received reports of federal law enforcement officers going door to door asking people where the Asian people live, right in our very own city. I myself have received advice to carry my passport with me because that they may try to target me based on what I look like as well. We are ground zero for Trump's war in America, a war on our democracy, on our freedoms, on our rights as Americans. It is in our backyard today, and it is only a matter of time before it is in yours.
Racial profiling so prevalent that a mayor of a major U.S. city is herself concerned that she could be a target of that racial profiling. And perhaps we would be surprised, Congressman, if not for the fact that that racial profiling had been sanctioned by the U.S. Supreme Court.
You know, Simone was quoting James Baldwin a few minutes ago, and when I pulled up to the Minnesota State Capitol building in St. Paul this morning, I noticed the street signs in the ring road around the Capitol is Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. And I thought to myself, what would Dr. King think right now? What would he say right now? What would he call us to do in this moment? And Mayor Herr, who we heard from today, is the embodiment of Dr. King's dream. And we see the Trump administration explicitly targeting people across this country based on their race. The Supreme Court of the United States sanctioning it. It is disgusting, and it is un-American, and it has to stop.
Yeah, Congressman, these two things are not divorced. We're seeing what you heard from the residents. You heard from residents and leadership in the Twin Cities today in Minneapolis and St. Paul. You heard from Attorney General Keith Ellison. Yeah. And it's not lost on me that on the same day this hearing happened, we are now getting news that there's an investigation into the governor of Minnesota, Governor Walz, and the mayor of Minneapolis, Mayor Frey. I just have to wonder what your thoughts are on this, juxtaposing what we're just talking about. You know, the quote, the idea that I raised from James Baldwin came from an idea that's rooted in his 1963 book, The Fire Next Time. And his point is that we are conditioned as Americans to see injustice. And he was writing this in 1963. The danger is the moral adjustment to that injustice that we see and what we do about it. My concern is that Americans are being conditioned from their government that selective investigations are just how it is right now.
And look, we've seen it many times already. You can go through the list of names of clearly politicized investigations that the Trump Justice Department has embarked on. And the goal isn't necessarily, although I'm sure they would love, to get a guilty verdict for Governor Walz or Mayor Fry. They won't, of course, because the investigations are absurd. But the goal is to intimidate their political opponents, is to send a message to people like me or the mayor in the next city that ICE surges into, or the governor in the next state that ICE surges into, who's a Democrat, that if you speak out in support of your constituents, in support of the Constitution, you could be next. And look, a grand jury, an investigation creates a whole lot of problems and expenses, and who wants to go through that? So maybe you're a little bit more quiet than you otherwise would have been. That's the goal. I'm not going to bow down to that kind of bullying. I don't think a lot of Democrats are going to bow down to that kind of bullying, but that's what Trump wants.
Well, to that point, there's a piece out on MSNOW talking about the fact that Democrats need to bring a knife to an ICE fight, noting, quote, right now there's no bipartisan path forward for the Department of Homeland Security. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York told reporters on Wednesday, technically Johnson doesn't need one to get a bill passed, but Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota does. Funding bills must get past the filibuster, meaning at least a handful of Senate Democrats need to be on board with each measure. So as you're looking at putting in place corrective action, we've got budgetary considerations coming up with respect to the funding of departments like DHS. What type of knife are you going to bring to that fight?
I take government funding questions very seriously. I represent 50 to 60,000 federal workers in Virginia. And I said this today at the hearing, when the DHS funding bill comes to the House, expect next week, if there aren't real restrictions to rein in ICE, I mean an end to the masking, I mean an end to officers refusing to identify themselves and not wearing badges or badge numbers, I mean warrants for detention, I mean use of force standards that are in place and enforced, and officers who violate them are disciplined. If those things aren't in the bill, I ain't going to vote for it. I ain't going to vote for it. And I voted for 5 appropriations bills already for other agencies because they were bipartisan and reined in the Trump administration. This is out of control, and we have to take a stand.
Is there a movement inside the caucus to rally with you on that?
There is. There is.
All right. Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia, we appreciate you coming on and sharing some thoughts, my man. New polling shows Trump may be losing a key coalition behind his last victory, and it could have critical consequences for the midterms. I'm going to break it down for you right here on the Weeknight.